now being on the inside, Florida, we're crazy. We're a crazy state.
Why do you say that? Do you mean in terms of verdicts, or do you mean in terms of the substantive law, or what?
Verdicts, substantive law, highly, highly, highly litigious. So just we're the perfect storm of litigation. We're all about it.
Welcome to The Defense Never Rests with Morgan and Akins, your monthly dose of uncommon sense about all things legal and some that are not.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to this episode of The Defense Never Rests. I'm your host, Megan Henry, and today I'm joined by my co-host again, Nate Bolander. Hi, Nate.
Good morning. Coming to you from mid-beaming up to the mothership here with these light, spindly fingers above me. Sorry about that.
Well, I love having you on as my co-host, Nate, because every time I think you're on, you're in a different location. So everyone gets to see these like varied backgrounds from you. You're like Nate travels the world.
Yeah, until the baby comes in January, we are mobile, and then we are not mobile after that. We've told all our family and friends we're stuck.
Yeah, you're not like mobile forever.
No.
And when you are, it's like you have to bring so much stuff that
I know.
You guys have to stay home.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Yeah, if you need me, come to our house for the next 2 years. So.
That sounds.
We'll travel now accurate. And not after January, right?
Well, today we're joined by one of our favorite guests, Matt Margolis. I think this is like his third time joining our podcast. And Matt was working as a practicing attorney a few months ago, and then just recently went in-house at Lloyd Jones. So we brought him on to get kind of the inside perspective, as now that he's on the other side of the table, you know, types of things that he what's changed for him and like what he likes to see on reporting and from his defense counsel and all that good stuff that we like to hear about.
Yep. And he was making reports and handling claims, you know, right on the ground. And now he's receiving the reports and kind of overseeing claims. So we'll see how that transition's been for him.
Yeah, it really interesting. And I really good perspective. So with that, let's bring him in. Hi, Matt. Good morning. Thanks for joining us again. We were just saying this is your third time, I think, on The Defense Never Rests.
Do I get a t-shirt or like, I don't know, a mug?
I don't know. We might need to start calling you like co-host or something. I don't know. I think you might be like, I think you're tied with probably Sherry Billis as like most appeared guest. Maybe. I'm not sure. I'd have to fact check that.
If not, schedule me for the next one. Let's do this. Yes, I'm getting the trophy.
Or Sherry's gonna be like, no, I gotta be on it too.
fight to the top.
So I don't know if our listeners heard, well, you've been on 2 times, but our first time we had you on to talk about how you've coined yourself, Matt, the millennial lawyer on LinkedIn, which we had you come on and talk about that because I think it's an awesome marketing technique. And you create really, really good content and funny content.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. But since we last talked, you were at a firm and now you've gone in-house. So now we're like, great, let's open the doors and listen to everything that's going on the inside that we've all been curious about. And
is in-house better? I know. It's always the big question we all have. Right.
But let's back up a little bit though. So you worked in private practice for a number of years, and you had like a really good corner of the market. You had an awesome marketing technique and you're really generating a lot of buzz. So, you know, how was it that you came to shift over to be like, did this opportunity fall into your lap? Were you looking? Like what happened?
That's a good question. I wasn't looking. The opportunity kind of presented itself, and I love private practice. I still post all of those fun GIFs and memes and funny posts on LinkedIn, and I'll continue doing it. But marketing, you know, ultimately takes its toll, right? It's a lot of work. There's a lot of thought put into it, and it takes away ultimately from the billable hour. So this opportunity was presented itself. It was this opportunity too good to be true from an organization that is absolutely stellar. And I took it. I thought, you know, when you're presented with something like that, what are you supposed to do, right?
Right. So, but let's back up a little bit. When you were in private practice, you were primarily doing, I believe, like construction work and stuff. And how did that segue into where you are now? So
the construction work really lent itself. So I'll give some background. So I work at Lloyd Jones. Lloyd Jones is a developer, manager, private equity group that owns, develops, again, manages a wide portfolio of properties. Multifamily, senior living, hospitality. And I brought to the table right, the risk management and risk mitigation strategies I learned being a defense attorney, doing general liability claims, and the host of things that just kind of came across my desk. And on the construction side, it really lent itself to the development, to negotiating contracts, especially as a construction attorney. If you've litigated the issue, you know what to give on and what not to give on, right? So it really lent itself to this transactional and litigation. There is some litigation components to the job, but to the mostly transactional role.
But how was the transition moving over? Like, I mean, I think that's like the $1 million question we all ask. Like, you go from, quantifying your whole day, in 0.1 increments to suddenly, I think you posted about it recently too. Like, I think about your day and increments, and just to have suddenly that be gone. I don't know. Like, I don't know what I do.
It's super weird. So like, I think day one, and I had posted about it, and it was like dead serious. Like day one, it's really hard to quantify like even your day, right? So like, you don't even know what time it is. So I'm working, and there's all these things coming at you, and you're handling all these, whatever it may be. And I'm like, wow, I must have billed like a 0.8 or for that, and like a 0.9 for that, and like 1.6 for that. So I'm like, what? It should be. It's like 11 o'clock right now. And then I look, and it's like 4:30. I'm like, oh my God, what happened? I don't know what time it is. So it's super surreal. To this day, I mean, it hasn't been that long, but at least, it's been a little bit of time. And I'm honestly, even this podcast, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is gonna be like a 1.1. And I don't even send the invoice too. So I sent it to you guys, I sent it to myself.
Nate feels your language. He sometimes podcasts stress Nate out because he's like, oh man, that's a 1.3. Where am I going to make that up?
Because Matt, I have this thing where I have to I track my time as the day goes every day. So at noon, I always have 3 or 4. I'm not one of those people that enters the billables at the end of the month or any of that stuff. I do it as I go. So for me, it's like, I had to get up early to make time for this. Even though I know I could probably find time this weekend or whatever, I need to get my time today. So that's how I operate. So do you track time now that you're in-house at all? I mean, is there any way that you have to quantify your time?
So no, so I don't actually track. Well, I guess it's yes and no, right? So I don't track my time in the traditional sense, but like internally, I know how long certain things take, and I know if it's too much, right? Like I'm working on a contract, and I'm like, why is it taking me in billable hours? Why is it taking me at 2.4? Why is that taking me at 2.4 when I know this should be a lot less? And kind of instinctually, I'm like, all right, I need to get better at these tasks to, be more efficient. But so internally, I'm like 2.4, but writing it down and putting it in my billing software and getting yelled at by the billing person, gone, no more.
That's beautiful. That's a beautiful thing.
Well, it's got to take some of this like pressure away. Because sometimes I find like if I'm in deep in a project or research or something, then you start to be like, I'm taking too much time. I can't. And so now you can actually take the time, and it's okay. You probably have pressures and deadlines that are different, but you're not worried about, like I can't bill a 2.4 for this, contract review. I can't do that. But if that's what you're doing, that's what you're doing. And even on our side, if it's taking you that much time to go through it, it's taking you that much time. But I always have that little like thing in my ear, like you're taking too much time. You got to wrap it up, figure it out.
And it's still
always
there.
Something. Yeah. It's always something for me, at least nebulous kind of like an answer is an answer. And if it's a 300 paragraph complaint, it's going to take a while. If it's a 22 paragraph complaint, it's not going to take as long. If you have to do POs, it's going to take a long. I mean, there's things in your head that are more concrete. But the thing that always gets to me, Megan, where I have the voice in the back of my head is research. Research time. I'm always like, hey.
I knew this was coming. This is also where we segue into working from home and the challenges associated.
So
we got rid of the dog to add the cat.
Yeah. Yep. What's next? An armadillo is just going to walk around back there. I don't know.
Is there going to be like a hamster running across?
The birds are going to fly in and fly. That's right. Like, oh, perfect. This is it. This is my podcast on the circus. Thanks, guys.
Yeah. No, I find myself with research. I think it's going to take find out what the standard is for this or the elements for that, and I find myself in a nebulous hole all the time where I don't want to miss anything, right? Because you don't want to put on paper to a filing to the court, here's the law, I'm going to apply it. Because once you start applying it, once you start concluding what, doing all that stuff, then it's, you're locked into that. So I don't want to miss anything. So I could take a really simple issue, and if I wanted to, research it for 5 hours, but I know it's not possible. So I have to get around it, cut it a little bit. And, and oftentimes you reach out to the other people at your firm and say, has anyone dealt with this issue? And maybe you can bounce ideas off them. But research is always the thing I find that's you just go down a rabbit hole, and it's just like you can never end.
You know what the kicker with research though is that you'll be doing, you're like, okay, I spent way too much time, I got to be done. Like, okay, a few more minutes, and then you find the case that is exactly what you're looking for. You're like, what if I had stopped? So it just perpetuates the need to keep looking, because like it happens to me more times than it doesn't. So I always am like, well, why don't I just try this search? Why don't I just spend a little bit longer? And then you always, without a doubt, you find what you're looking for.
Yeah. You just like opened up like the next scary movie, because we're getting really close to Halloween, right? Like, Dawn of the Dead, the day you missed that one case.
Seminal opinion.
Well, it's giving me chills, honestly, thinking about it. It's been a while since I've litigated, or at least I've been in court, so it's
Well, so it's got to be weird though, now that the tables are turned, to see files being like, you obviously have litigated files and seeing them being litigated sitting on this side of the desk. Like, do you try to like micromanage? Like, how do you handle it?
All of my defense counsel are probably listening to this podcast. I hate that. That's the worst. So, like it's super weird, right? So you'll have a case come your way, and it's not in the traditional sense, right? Like maybe you have an adjuster, or you have the client send it over. For me, it's like, oh gosh, I got X, Y, and Z. So something's potentially forthcoming, or it's already in suit, and you just get slapped with the complaint, right? So I get it. And once defense counsel is assigned, I could be a little overbearing. I'll admit to it. So I want my updates. I want to see initial reporting done. I want to see, everything that was expected of me working, especially for carriers. So it's really weird, because then, and this is probably a problem with many in-house counsel that previously litigated, letting go of the reins, because there's plenty of times, they're like, hey, we're going to go in this direction. I think this direction's best. And I'm like, I don't know, Greg. And there is no Greg, by the way. I don't know if it's just a random. If there is a Greg and you're my defense counsel, I apologize, Greg. So, I don't know about that, but I think it's strange for me to kind of pull back and trust my defense counsel and allow them to do their job.
It's got to be impossible, especially like you only moved into this role about like a few months ago, right? So it's probably hard to, it's hard to break the habit. Like if you've been into a few years, I could see it easier to step back, but now like you really just left litigation. So you're still in it. Like your mind is still in it. You haven't gotten used to letting someone else handle it.
It's true. And I assume you're right. Over time, like I will ease up and be like, yeah, no, they've got it. No worries. But I agree right now. I'm like, well, hold on. I've done this. This doesn't sound right. And like I freak out. But I'll use this as a moment as a shout out to all my defense counsel. Y'all are great. So sorry in advance.
I was gonna say, do you ever legitimately overrule people? I mean, when they say, listen, like they write a report, and we always underline our action stuff in reports. So, it's like 5 paragraphs, and we'll have maybe 1 line per paragraph. We say, we plan on answering versus POing, and here's why, or things like that. Do you ever write them back and say, no, wrong, I want it done this way?
I said yes. So I guess I'll caveat it. So yes, in the sense of like, we'll actively discuss, like, again, not divulging into too much, but, I definitely have my own thoughts on how the cases should be run. And if I see something that maybe doesn't align with that thought, I'll give my 2 cents.
Yeah.
Very diplomatic answer. That's good.
Yeah, right. See, if you asked me that a couple months ago, like super fresh, I'd be like, absolutely not. I scream at them. Don't do this.
Right. I'm
shaking the initial report, ripping it up.
I don't think you scream at anybody.
No.
Try not to. Yeah, I know. I think when I used to be in court, I used to call myself like a chihuahua. So I used to raise my voice, but I'm like, no one can tell this, but I'm like 5'8", maybe like 150 pounds. So it's like a barking chihuahua. That's some insight into my litigation tactics.
Did you get patted on the head and someone say, settle down, boy?
Once. Very close to what you're saying, once in Palm Beach County. I had a judge once was like, all right, Matt, cool your jets a bit. And I'm like, sorry, because I'm a Chihuahua. So yeah, it has indeed happened.
So do you have some challenges? Like, so when you practice in Florida. I presume now that your files are outside of Florida. So how is it being when you have litigated files in other jurisdictions?
It's interesting. And selfishly, like it's a good learning experience, right? So like maybe there's a dispute in Texas, or there's a dispute in Michigan, or wherever it may be. And you're right. I'm a Florida litigator, and Florida is unique in itself in a lot of aspects of law. So those jurisdictions, I really rely upon my defense counsel, and I like those cases because I like to, I have a real dialogue with those folks, and it allows me to fully understand what's going on in that jurisdiction. It's really cool. Yeah. But it's also, it's as a general counsel, in-house counsel, it's like concerning because it really is like a no man's zone for me. Like I've never been out in this area. I have no idea how the judges are. I have no idea what the law looks like. I have no idea X, Y, and Z. So it's kind of scary when you have cases outside in those areas. But, again, good defense counsel that, will bring me up to speed on any sort of issues that are unique to those areas.
Now, through that, have you found, since in your time starting there, have you found any jurisdictions that like now you're like, whew, like, I mean, we all have our impressions of certain jurisdictions. And in fact, Florida is one of them that we're like, well, you don't want to be in Miami, so have you experienced like some like oddities through the last few months in certain jurisdictions? Definitely
some. I won't say the jurisdiction, but I will say outside of Florida, there are some states that I don't know what y'all are doing. Fix it up, guys. Like, I don't know what's going on there, but I will say, like, now being on the inside, Florida, we're crazy. We're a crazy state.
Well, why do you say that? Do you mean in terms of verdicts, or do you mean in terms of the substantive law, or what?
Verdicts, substantive law, highly, highly, highly litigious. So just we're the perfect storm of litigation. We're all about it. So,
and why do you think that is? I have my own theory of why I think Florida would be like that, but I'm curious from someone who actually knows it and breathes it, why you think Florida is so crazy.
We've made stabs at tort reform, but there's plenty of issues that we've kind of pulled back on, or the law isn't super clear. So it has allowed a lot of cottage industries to appear and people to take advantage of those cottage industries. I think probably, you probably see in the news, like first party property in the state of Florida is probably the best example where, because of certain case law, you can get multipliers on these cases, even though everyone wants to take them. And as a result, you have this cottage industry where folks are litigating first party property cases in droves. Like I heard a firm, I had 10,000 files, on like a casual Tuesday. So, I'm thinking that's maybe a part of it. As it relates to maybe verdicts, I think across the United States, we're starting to see, the rise of these nuclear verdicts. I don't know if you all saw the one in Jacksonville. It was like $1 billion.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up. That it was a trucking case.
That one. Yeah, that one's wild. That one is, it's wild because if you look at how it's split up, it's like one defendant was 900 million, which was all punitive damages. And the other defendant, which was the defendant that actually was really defended, was hit with like 100. It was such a message by the jury. The jury was like, we know you, one defendant, you don't really exist, but we're going to slap you on the wrist for 900. We know you have the money. So here's all of the insured damages. Wild, absolutely wild.
Yeah. And also I'm curious to see what's going to happen with that. I mean, it's such it shocks the conscious number. I guess that's the standard, at least in PA, if the verdict shocks the conscious.
Florida, it's like a casual Wednesday. Cool.
Well, that's the thing I think is interesting about Florida is the general demographic, because you have, some along the coast, you have a lot of urban areas, highly populated. And then when you get to the center of the state, it's more sparse. And so I think it's kind of like Pennsylvania too. Like Pennsylvania, you have Philly and Pittsburgh, and then you have the middle that's so different from the cities. So I just see Florida being kind of similar in that respect.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, because we really are 3 states. Well, maybe like 2.5. So it's like Miami upwards to Orlando is exactly what you're describing. Well, maybe a little bit before. Right now, I'm thinking about it, and I'm like, not 100%. So it's like maybe just before Orlando is more built. I don't say built up, but it's a different location than North Florida. North Florida is much more rural.
Yeah.
And what you would anticipate seeing in maybe Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi. And then you're right, like in the middle is this weird hodgepodge just before Orlando, and then Orlando up probably to Gainesville. And we're a melting pot of different everything. It's really cool. Florida's a really cool state to be in for that.
And there's a lot of young, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, and you can't forget the transplants, like all the people who retire who now make their residence down in Florida. So they're not from Florida. They come from all different places, and whatever their influences are from those places, and they probably live in some of the more urban populated areas.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
my parents are from New York and Massachusetts. I'm the first Floridian of my family. So yeah, absolutely.
Right. And you have a ton of huge universities and a ton of young people in Miami and other cities. And then you have a ton of old people. So I'd love to see the breakdown. I mean, I think most states is like a parabola, right? It's like most people are like in their 30s, 40s, 50s. In Florida, I feel like it's like a reverse one where there's like tons of young people and tons of old people and not as many like baby boomers or young baby boomers,
That's probably right. I'm thinking about it.
I'm just.
Yeah. Well, it might be. I mean, it is. We have such a large influx, especially in South Florida and Southwest Florida. So when I say Southwest Florida, I mean like Naples area. You're right, is transplants from that side, is transplants from the Midwest, and then the other side is transplants from the Northeast. And you're right, it is very old. And you're right, that probably does play a part in juries, and that probably plays a part in some of the litigation we see. Probably influx of claims as well, as you get older, right? Like it happens, you fall, you break up, you tear your ACL. It's just super easy, but that's a really good point.
Yeah. I find it interesting. I was thinking about what you were saying before when you were in kind of, you're a Florida litigator, but you're in new states and you're kind of learning as you go. I think as you get more used to that, things won't shock you at the beginning of cases anymore. I have tons of cases where I represent airlines in JFK and LaGuardia in New York, and the suits are usually brought in Queens County, which is incredibly liberal. The plaintiffs get such a long leash. And when I have someone who's adept at litigating in those venues, they just, when I do an initial review or initial strategy or initial evaluation of the case, and I say it's worth X amount, the people that are adept with dealing with those claims just, oh yeah, that's Queens County. I know it's we can't remove it. We can't move it. We're stuck here. Let's make the best of it. And if people are used to litigating claims in Alabama and they get a New York case, they're like, what in the world are you saying? This guy wasn't even looking where he was going. Are you joking me? And it's like, you have to get over that. And sometimes it takes months to get over that initial shock of like, and I've actually showed jury verdict awards to people to say, this is exactly what just happened 6 months ago in our case. And look what the jury awarded. I mean, okay, well, I guess you're right, Nate. And it's this shock of people that are used to litigating in a more conservative Southern state, maybe. And then they're all of a sudden thrust into Queens County, New York. They have to get used to that.
Now you make me think about it. You're like, when people come into Florida and they're like, oh my God, right? It shocks the conscience for Florida. They're like, what is this? And I'm just like, again, it's like a casualties then, like whatever. That's a very good point. Yeah. I hope so, right? I hope so going forward, some of these states. And again, it's just weird nuances in law that, you're right, I will get used to over time. But again, shout out to my defense attorneys that are keeping me up to date, keep me apprised of it. So,
well, the key is to be alerted to that early, right? The key is like within the first month, here's the venue. We tried to move it. We tried to remove it. It's not going to work, or we have to table it for now. And here's what you're looking at. It's not good. I don't mind reporting that way. It's not fun, but it's so much better to look back 2 years later and say, yep, the first month we were on board with, this is not going to be good.
I appreciate that. I'll tell you what, as inside, and I've heard this from so many claims people too. Everyone is so tired of the surprise report, right? You get the report like maybe towards mediation, maybe just after. No, probably towards mediation, where it's like, hey, I reported how everything was awesome. It's not so awesome anymore. And you look at everything, and another attorney could be, looking at it retrospectively, being like, this was not awesome, like day one, maybe day two. And I tell you, that kind of reporting is refreshing, at least to me, where, if there's a problem, if there's an issue, like just tell me what it is. and keep me apprised of it, as opposed to getting surprised at mediation. Then, right, with a carrier will always say this: I don't have the authority at mediation because you didn't tell me I was supposed to have this kind of authority.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So that's actually a good segue, because I was going to ask you about reporting. So, on mine and Nate's side, and where your old position, like reporting is like, I don't know, such a key integral part of what we do on I feel like a day by day basis. So now that you're on the other side of the table, what are you looking for in reports that you love when you see? And then what are some things that you used to do that you're like, I can't believe I did this. This is so annoying from the client perspective.
Yeah, this is a great question. So I am guilty in a previous life of writing reports that were like 30 plus pages.
Nate and I were just talking about this yesterday.
Yep, just talking about
We're
it.
all guilty of it, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and I read, like, you read the guidelines and you're like, yeah, they totally want like 400 pages of the same nonsense they read 4 weeks ago. Of course.
Yep.
So when I see reporting that's like extensive like that, and more or less a rehashing of the last 4 reports, drives me crazy. And now I feel terrible. I'm like, oh my God, some assistant general counsel or claims person probably hates me, and to this day hates my extensive reporting. So I definitely hate long reports. Get to the point, right? No one has the time to read 40 pages of that. I like upfront reporting, right? For executive summary, this is what's going on immediately. This is what's going on. This is what you need to know about. This is what matters. If you need to know something in more detail, see section A, whatever section. And those are my favorite reports. It's my favorite reporting to see. And it gives me, because I only have in the day, there's so much going on. Maybe I have 10 minutes to read the report. And if I can look at an executive summary and maybe 4 sections that I don't understand, I'm good. I'm awesome.
Yeah. I always think about this, like, what is it about us lawyers that we feel like we need to write these long reports? And I think a lot of it's like, we got to show our worth or cover our asses. I don't know which one it is. It's probably a little bit of both, but it's the need to feel like, okay, yeah, I thought of that. And I think some of it's important. Like, you don't want your client to think that you didn't think about these other things, and they might respond to you with the question, like, what about X, Y, and Z? And I think when you already have addressed it in the report, it makes you feel, okay, like I covered all my bases. I answered all your questions. But again, to hand over a 25-page report is difficult because, again, they don't have a ton of time. So I love the executive summary. I try to do that. I don't think I call it an executive summary, but I think in my first paragraph, I say, like, this is what's going on. This is what we need. This is where we are. Things have changed. Things haven't, whatever it may be, that's important, that you can hear it up front. And then if you want to read, continue on. Although I'm not a 25-page report person. I'm more of an emailer.
You guys hired. Welcome aboard, guys. This was actually the interview. This was all a ruse. This is a podcast. It's like Charlie.
Well, guess what? It's recording, so you're held to that.
Perfect.
So I knew of a gentleman who used to send out reports, and he would send a one-pager. He would send a one-pager and then the 25-page report. Mm-hmm. And he's like, if you need to read the big report, I'm sending it to you. This is the CYA, but here's an actual one-pager to accompany, and it was like perfect. And people
that is
always
a good idea.
Yeah.
I like that. Like, you have the email, like the executive summary, so to speak, and then you attach the 25-pager, I guess.
Perfect.
I don't know. I think it depends on the case, though, too. Like sure. I think if you have like a really complex products case, like, there is a lot to talk about as to the specific products and what's going on. So I think there is a time and place for that, but sometimes it's just, you just don't need to do it just to do it. Like,
yeah.
Here's a question I have, because I always think about this, how do you feel about case law in reports? Because I personally don't like it unless it's like a key case that is like, we're going to go on a motion for summary judgment. I found this case. This is our basis. This is good. But like, regurgitating the law, I don't know. For me, I'm like, why would anyone want to read this?
If it's got to be nuanced, I agree. It's got to be like a really, like, in Texas, we only, here's the case law. Here's a good example. Here's the case law interpreting Stowers. Like, this is what a Stowers demand is, and things like that. That's more nuanced. Sure. And because Florida doesn't have a Stowers demand. So, but explain to me, like, the the like the case law, like the Texas or the Minnesota or the whatever case law on like negligence. Like, come on, guys. Come on, man. I don't got time for that.
Yeah. I recently got a draft report from somebody with like a regurgitation of law. I was like, okay, well, they don't really need to know what negligence is. I think they know.
Like shortly after the formation of this country, the Constitution was drafted.
Magna Carta. Oh my gosh, Magna Carta.
Yep.
You imagine being the me on the other side. I'm waiting for that. Somebody, please, if you're watching this, please send me a report that like gives me a whole recitation.
Yeah.
Of the common law.
Yeah.
I'm for it.
If you put Marbury versus Madison in your report, you're doing the right thing. You're on target.
Although,
a history of English common law.
I think I do want someone to do that to you, Matt, as like a joke, just to see if you get the joke.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's do this.
There's gotta be somebody. Some defense counsel's watching this. It's gonna be somebody, and if you do it, I don't know. I'll buy you a beer. Like, that's so funny. Like you, like that's so funny. Gosh.
So.
Sorry, I was just saying, now I have unrealistic expectations of reporting because now I anticipate that every report, I'm on my toes because every report could have Marbury v. Madison in it.
Mm-hmm. Everyone listening, make sure you throw it in
there. So, and anything else that you used to do that other than reporting that you used to do to your like clients and that you thought you were like being helpful, but now you're like, maybe I should have done it differently, or now sitting in these shoes, I would appreciate it this different. Like, let's take, for instance, like you go to like a hearing, and you call your client on the way back. Now, being the client, do you appreciate that caller, or would you rather just have it in a report so I could put it in my file and I don't have to take any notes or anything like that?
So I do like the phone calls. I like creating that rapport with defense counsel because, right, it's just a team effort. So we're working together to get this thing. So I do like the phone calls, but in retrospect, I'm crazy. So I'll send like a bunch of emails because I'm probably the over reporting, and reporting is fantastic, but I would send emails potentially. I'm like, hey, just like email, nothing's going on. And monthly emails are fine, but like these would be like maybe like every 2 weeks. I'm like, nothing's going on. Let me know if you need anything, blah, 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 blah. And now if I get those, I'm like, all right, thank you. Great, delete. So not being overzealous in representation, but in reporting, right? Like that's maybe something when more because I was a newer attorney and I wanted to get my name in the email box and get more clients and get more work. And that's probably what it was. But if you're doing that, like it's maybe a little too much. Monthly is awesome. Quarterly is fine. So in retrospect, again, if you're a claims person or assistant general counsel, I'm sorry. Your email box is flooded with my emails. I apologize.
What about if there's a big case event? So let's say you report on the 1st of the month. That's your day for reporting for monthly. And then the deposition of plaintiff happens the 4th. Do you want to get a report the 5th or the 6th, or do you want to get it the 1st of the next month?
If there's a big event, plaintiff's depo, or you're right, or something I'm not involved in. Maybe there was a motion for summary judgment hearing, maybe there's a motion for sanction, something of that sort. I want it. I agree. I want a email or a phone call or a text message or something. Hey, this just happened. This was the result. Heads up. So definitely. So those would be the extenuating circumstances to the over-reporting.
Yeah. I mean, I think our Trish always says, you never let the sun set on new information.
Yes. I'm going to get that plastered on my wall.
That's going to be in your signature line.
Be like that and like colon, like Marbury v. Madison. And only 4 people understand the job. Perfect. I'm going to change that right after.
Please.
Well, reporting is such a tricky thing, though, because I think a lot of times it does come down to like each individual's preferences. Like you might appreciate the phone call or the text message, but some other client might hate, like they might not want a text message. You're like, great, if I get a text message, it's on my phone, it's not on my system, then it like everyone's a little bit different. So I think kind of what you're talking about, like creating the relationship and understanding what your client prefers is really what you should do, because Joe Smith might he might not want the phone call. Like he might not even like to talk on the phone. You don't know. Like, he might just prefer the email. I think it just depends on what that individual really likes.
Yeah. Listen, I just hired a law clerk, and I'm going to have, I'm going to kind of bring him in to the process, kind of to expose him to the litigation process. And he might hate phone calls. He might absolutely hate phone calls. So I'm just going to make sure I inundate him with as many phone calls as I can so that he loves phone calls. Now, I'm with you there. I couldn't agree more. And there was plenty of adjusters I'd worked with in the past that were like, Matt, you got to send me an email. You got to send me an email with that information. You're right, because I put it into my system. I've got 1,000 litigated claims. What is your text message going to do? It's going to appear into the ether, right? So. Agreed.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I can't even keep up with my own text messages that have nothing to do with work, Yeah. You put down your phone and you have 23 messages like, what happened in the world of moms? And it's like, oh, tomorrow's picture day. You just don't know.
I look forward to that. I look forward to those text messages.
Well, actually, we're going to derail here, but there is a funny thing on TikTok with the dads making plans for all our listeners. Matt and Nate are going to be young fathers in the coming months.
Well, Matt, did you have a child? Matt, you had a child.
No, December. Nate, you're having a kid?
Okay. January.
Mazel tov, Nate. Why did we start with that?
I don't know. It's personal. This is professional. This is the defense never rests.
Oh my gosh, that is congratulations. That's fantastic.
Yeah. So we're gonna be maybe our little ones will be friends. I don't know. You never know.
Or well, you're having a girl and a boy, so
girl and a boy. So maybe
never mind. Ooh,
what do you mean never mind? What do you mean? You don't like me? We wouldn't be buddies. Come on, man.
This is like a family, right? All of a sudden, our kids meet, they fall in love at a later date.
That's right.
In-laws. I don't know, Nate. I don't know yet. Oh, I mean, no, okay.
Next time I come down to Florida, we'll have a drink, and then you'll vet me for future father-in-law status, and we'll.
Again, this isn't a podcast. It's a secret interview. It's a secret interview.
That's right. Yep.
Well, that's I mean, they will be very close in age, so.
A month, a month apart. Yeah.
Although Matt's going to take advantage of the tax benefit of having a baby in 2021, and you have to wait till 2022 to get the.
What do you mean? Oh, I see. I understand. Yeah, I know that stinks. We didn't plan that very well.
No. Like you got to induce early.
I know it's terrible. But no, I mean, I think I told you, Matt, my stepfather-in-law lives in Waldo. So we spend a fair bit of time north of Gainesville anyway. So when I'm down, we can pop. Although you're far away from that. That's far away from everything, really.
Nate, for you, I will drive. I'm happy to take a tour of Florida.
Thank you.
To get that drink.
Yeah. Well, that's in the, you said Florida's 2.5 Floridas. We're in the half. That's the half. There's nothing around.
1.5 Floridas to get to Nate.
Yeah, that's right. That's a lot of Floridas. Yeah. So anyway, so we were derailed. Megan, put us back on track. This is
I'm going to put us back on the off track, but
good.
There is the TikTok out there that it's a difference between how fathers make plans and how mothers make plans, and the fathers are like, do you want to meet at the park? And the other dad's like, cool. And then, then it shows the mom texting this like paragraph long, like, okay, we'll be there at 2:30. I'm going to bring the snacks and the snacks. Should we invite so-and-so? And they're going to be there. And then the other mom writes this paragraph long response. So it's the difference between, how you guys would make plans versus.
I'm going to text Kate and be like, I'll see you later. Thanks.
Yeah. See you in Waldo tomorrow. That's it. Yeah, that's it.
So yes. So both of you guys are having babies around the same time, may or may not, in the future wed to be determined.
Probably likely.
And we'll probably have to have another podcast in like February, so I can record you guys looking like all tired and your hair disheveled and with spit rags on you, and I'll laugh.
My words of wisdom will be so much darker and be like, this is terrible, being an attorney is terrible. Rocking my baby on the podcast.
That's right. Yeah. Yep.
There's tears now. We're in all seriousness, I'm super looking forward to it. It's gonna be awesome. And again, Nate, that's amazing, man.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, when you announced to us remember before the podcast, you said you were gonna have a kid and you were gonna announce it that week via order from the court. Remember that?
So cheesy.
We knew we were pregnant, but I did not have my wife's permission to tell anyone. So I was sworn to secrecy, So I would have told you then, but that was, I have a boss. So
listen. So do I. Do you? getting that order signed and approved took months.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's a backlog. There's a backlog.
I had to get with my wife's JA. It was terrible. I'm like, all right, you had to prompt it.
God.
I will say that I remember when my older daughter came home from the hospital, we thought we had everything under control, and we're like, this, we got this. And we thought, we'd put her to sleep at night, and then, we were like, okay, she'll wake up in 2 hours, and then you'll feed her. And then none of that happened. We were both up all night. Like, she screamed and cried the entire night. We used every single room in the house. And the next morning there was like shit everywhere. And it was like, had not even been 24 hours since she came home. We're like, oh my God, this is not what we had expected.
Pure chaos.
So anticipate that. Expect it to be exactly what you don't expect.
Tyson. Yeah, I keep going back to the Mike Tyson quote from the 80s when people said you didn't prepare enough for your fights, you don't watch film, and you don't look at your other fighters. And he said everyone's got a plan until they're punched in the mouth. And I look at it that way. I feel like the moment the baby's born, you get kicked in the mouth, and you're just like, okay, just roll, let's go. So yeah, we're doing as much as we can to prepare, but everyone says that anyway. So what's the point? I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll have a nursery set up. We'll have everything ready to go, and then we'll figure it out. So.
Yeah. And you won't even use that nursery for like 3 months, 4 months.
Oh yeah.
Just so you know.
I just finished it. Oh no.
Yeah. That's good.
Just as a seasoned pro over here, I'm going to tell you, you're not going to use that thing except to take pictures.
Oh, good. Really good. Excellent. All the planning is going to waste.
It's fantastic. It's done. It's literally done. It's just behind these walls. So
yeah.
Awesome.
Well, at least
I have a segue back to professional stuff. We don't have to, but
bring us back, Nate.
No, we don't need to. Matt, let me ask you a question. Was what percentage of your choice to go from where you were to where you are was based on having a kid?
Oh, that's a good question.
That's a really good question. Candidly, like 60, 65.
Yeah, I figured.
Yeah.
A lot of people do that right before. Yeah, they're like, my life, I can't sustain the hours plus the marketing plus the whatever. I gotta have a little more flexibility.
Well, we thought about it. We were like, well, how old does my kid have to be before we can give my son a phone and then he could create legal gifts? And the math just didn't make sense.
Yeah. You're not gonna be able to withstand it that long. That's right.
It took a while to get a whiteboard. It just didn't happen.
Yeah.
Well, I think we touched on this too at the last podcast. And, I had suspected Nate's wife was pregnant, but I knew he couldn't tell me. And well, you told us after the podcast, but how your priorities do change. And suddenly, when you're accustomed to, working a Saturday morning from X to Y, suddenly you're not doing that anymore because just things have shifted. And as they get older, things shift even more because your Saturdays are not your own anymore. They're full of sports and birthday parties and play dates. So, it really does shift your focus, whether you're at a firm or even in-house. You'll just find, this is just my advice for both of you or perspective, that you'll find that you will suddenly some things you're like, my weekends are my weekends, and that's it. And I think it's important too to take that time too. Right.
Yep. No, I mean, my weekends even now, we're doing baby birthing classes every Saturday morning on Zoom.
Fun.
So they're already what?
Fun.
What do you mean? It's necessary. We got to get ready, and we have in-person classes in November. We're doing.
Wow. I remember I didn't do any of those classes because I was like, it's going to happen anyway.
Oh, yeah. Well,
take the class or not.
Matt, you're not doing this?
No, I'm going blind.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
you're scared me, Nate.
Well, I'll say, what percentage do you think it's my choice to do these classes, especially on Zoom? If your answer is above 0, you're wrong. I'll put it that way. I think there's a couple tidbits in them, but they're 3 hours,
Yeah.
It's not really worthwhile to me, but whatever.
You could never be too prepared.
I guess, but some of the stuff, good God, And then they'll be like, oh, here's how to change a boy's diaper. And I'm mute, and then I'll just do something because I'm not doing that right now.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Just changing girls' diapers different. I didn't know that until last Saturday.
It is different.
Yeah. So now I know.
Googling a lot of things after this podcast. I am so unprepared.
That's all right, Matt. You'll get there.
Oh, I can't wait until our February podcast.
Yeah.
It's funny. It's funny how I don't know. I find it humorous that as an attorney, you get some big catastrophic case, it's huge file, big deal, and like no issues. It's almost mechanical, right? Do this, do that, do this.
Yep.
And then you bring life into this world and you just melt and you're like, I'm out. I don't know.
Yep.
Well, I do think, I think when it happens, you just figure it out and you just know what to do. It's very instinctive, I think, for both sexes in their own way. Like, I think as a woman, you just figure out and you know what to do. And I think as the dad, as the father, you also like, you figure it out. Like, there's no rule book to this, there's no like instruction manual. You could just
figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. I'm really nervous, but I feel like here's my thought. Maybe I'm being too pompous, but I feel like if tens or billions, I guess, billions of people over all of history have done this, some poorly, really poorly, but most okay, I can figure it out. You know what I mean? I feel like that's like, and I don't mean to be going blind, but I just am like, I don't know. Some of the minutia, I feel like you just figure out like week 2, you're ready,
Hey, cavemen did it.
That's right. And cave
women.
Yeah.
Well, but
That's
I'm
right.
sure, knowing you well, Nate, though, I'm sure it does make you a little nervous not to have an instruction manual.
Oh yeah. Yep. I routinely look at Elle's baby bump and flip out internally. I just like my ears get hot and I sweat just looking at the bump and being like, oh my, like they came home, my sister-in-law and mother-in-law and Elle came home yesterday with baby gifts. They got all these beautiful things like swaddles and stuff and the bassinet and everything. And I was like, oh God. And they're like, don't you like it? I'm like, no, it's beautiful. But I was like shaking because I was like, oh my God, I forgot this is happening. I was in the middle of work. I forgot this is happening in January, like no matter what.
I had a moment like that, I think, when I was like 7 or 8 months pregnant and with my first, and I was like, oh my God, this thing has to come out.
Yeah, that's step 1. Yeah.
And like, none of that is pleasant, and we'll just keep it at that. But like, either option is not a good one.
No.
Oh gosh.
No. Elle is lucky because she has her sister who just did it. We have a 3-year-old, 1-year-old niece. So there's a lot of questions and that's good. But Elle's very nervous about the actual birth, which is understandable. But
it's nerve-wracking.
We're very prepared for that, hopefully. So
yeah, more so than Matt and his wife.
Yeah, Matt, what the
Like
heck? Well, these birthing classes are 4 classes, 2.5 hours each at the hospital we're giving birth at. So it's like, and you tour it and you get like, you see the rooms and everything. And then you do like baby CPR and baby choking and
we're definitely doing that.
Yeah.
That's a necessary.
I would definitely do that.
Yeah. So anyway, that's
Well,
whatever. Really talk about it more if you want, but I'm just nervous.
I'll see you in Waldo. We'll talk about it in Waldo.
Yeah, Waldo. Thank you.
our poor listeners are like, where's the defense resting? I think they've rested.
I know.
We've moved on.
We have those 2 subscribers in Serbia, so to them, hello. Shout out to Serbian listeners.
I did have a recent discussion with someone how for all our subscribers in other countries, like, reach out to me. I'd love to have you on because I want to know what you like, what you're listening to, because I'm so curious.
I'd love to have a conversation with folks outside of the United States on the law. So I was going to post on LinkedIn about it recently, like a poll. I am so, and I hate it, that I'm so like American centric when it comes to our legal system. Like whoever those folks are from Serbia, like, let me know what's going on, man. What is the law system like? How's the litigation?
And like, are you listening to get tips or laugh at us? I'm just curious. So
Hopefully both.
Yeah. So this is just a message to everyone listening in other, Australia, England, Serbia, I think Bulgaria, wherever you are, message me.
We're very popular in Eastern Europe. We do have a lot of Eastern Europe subscribers.
You really?
I don't know. Yeah. Yep.
I don't know.
And to be fair, we've had two podcasts from England. We had a guy from Lloyd's that works at Lloyd's or through Lloyd's Syndicate. And then we had a professor from the Oxford School of London Business School. Mm-hmm. So those were both, international podcasts.
You guys need to fly out to these locations. It needs to be the Defense Never Rest International.
Yeah.
Like almost like House Hunters International.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
Similar concepts.
Well, we'll pitch our boss on a budget for that. I'm sure that'll go over well.
Oh, she's gonna love these podcasts.
Yeah, first class flights to Budapest. Yeah,
it's perfect. It's fine. It all makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, we're almost out of time, but I didn't want to run out of time before. So, Matt, you got to tell everyone about I know you're super pumped about your new company and your position, and you were just raving to us about how it's like, you've transitioned on, you came on during the pandemic, you're working remotely. Actually, how has that been, like onboarding onto a new company, in this total remote position?
We are pretty technologically advanced, so it's been fantastic. So a lot of things have been done through Google Meets, Zoom, what have you. So it's been a pretty good transition. I have been going down to Miami every so often to make sure, I'm not missing anything. I have good interactions with our corporate staff because we're based out of Miami. Mm-hmm. But overall, it's been pretty good. It's been pretty good on the remote life.
And you're able to like connect to your colleagues enough that you don't feel like out of loop, because I imagine it's just got to be difficult. And we've had a few attorneys come on board, during the pandemic, and I feel like it's just got to be difficult to try to connect to your colleagues.
It is. So most of my meetings are now done video, just so I can, you're right, just face the voice, more interactions. And then going down to Miami has been super helpful because I meet these people in person and we have conversations and maybe we get lunch, and it has definitely helped. But if it was purely remote, like start of the pandemic, it would be rough. I do admit it would be rough.
But then obviously there's a benefit, like too, that you get to work from home. You don't have to commute to Miami, and that's got to be nice.
Oh man, not commuting. I drove to Miami yesterday. It was like an hour and 25 minutes to get there and an hour, 25 minutes to get back in car to car traffic. So that's awesome. That's definitely awesome. It's great working from home. Pros and cons, definitely pros and cons on it.
Yeah. Like I have to go to Philadelphia tomorrow and Thursday, and I'm like, oh, I'm already mentally preparing myself for the commute, even though it's only 12 miles, it can take, 45 minutes. Yeah.
And I'm now completely remote. I'm 2 hours away from the office, and how often do I come in, Megan? Once every 6 months.
If you did,
you don't even know. You don't know. You don't know. But I love it because it's just, again, the downside is that work is always right there, as is everyone else, right? Like my wife and the dogs and whatever. There's no getting away from any of that. But the plus is that, I'm so much, I would save, 2 hours a day in commute, or at least an hour a day in commute. So I'll take it. I love it.
Me too.
Oh, it's great. It's great.
Yeah.
So, but I know, and you were talking about your company and how much you love the people and everything there. So I want to give you just a moment to get a nice little plug.
Thank you.
And because I know you guys you keep posting about looking for new talent and things like that. So here you have such a large platform right now. It's international. So use your international platform.
Serbia, if you're listening to this. So I appreciate it. Listen, Lloyd Jones is a fantastic company with a great corporate environment, great corporate culture. We believe in compassion, passion, and generally just working very well with our fellow man. So this is my plug to Lloyd Jones. If you have any interest in applying to work for Lloyd Jones, we're in a rapid growth expansion period. We are really looking in the senior living space. We're looking in the hospitality space. We still are existing in the multifamily space. If you have any interest in coming on board, check us out, check our website out. And if you have any questions, shoot me a direct message. Happy to discuss.
Yeah,
we'll put your email in the comments there.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And people could also click on your LinkedIn, which is the most popular LinkedIn out there.
Yeah.
You just click on your name.
Well,
follow Matt Margolis.
Flattery.
Uh-huh.
Like so far. Going up Waldo, but you watch yourself.
Well, and one thing I wanted to touch on too, because I have noticed this since I knew you moved in-house, but you have kept pretty consistent with keeping up on, your LinkedIn posts. And I'm thankful for that because I just enjoy them so much. They always give me a good chuckle, and you have just such a good insight a funny insight into, practicing. And so thank you for continuing to do that. Don't stop.
That was really thoughtful. Thank you for enjoying the content. Thank you for watching it. Look, I'm glad I have an audience that's willing to watch my funny memes, and if they're funny, like my memes and gifs. There's one today I did on Squid Game, so
I know.
Check it out.
Oh, I didn't see it yet. What? Oh, I gotta watch it. We started Squid Game last night.
Maybe don't watch it. Maybe
Why?
don't watch it. Little spoiler-ish.
Oh,
how many episodes in are you?
A third of one. The guy is like just is losing his money with betting.
Nate, you should enjoy this gift maybe another day.
Okay, I will put it on the back burner. Well, with a 3-year-old and 1-year-old in the house, Squid Game is not the thing you can really watch readily. You know what I mean?
Give me a call in 4 weeks when you're on episode 6.
Great. Okay. Perfect.
Or maybe by the weekend. Who knows when you'll get there?
Right,
Nate doesn't stay up late, so I don't know.
No. I have from 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock, then it's time for bed.
Same here.
Well, Matt, thanks so much for joining us again on the Defense Never Rests. It's always a pleasure having you on, and I mean it. I'm already planning a February, tired dads episode. Nate will be more tired. You'll be actually coming out of it a little bit. Like
welcome to the Defense Never Rests. This is
Well, you'll be like 6 weeks in. You probably would have experienced your first full night of sleep, so you'll be doing good. Nate, not so much.
Great, thank you, Megan. Looking forward to it. Thank you.
And as always, for our listeners and subscribers, if you like what you hear, please subscribe to the Defense Never Rests on Apple Podcasts, and we are on YouTube at The Legal Navigator.